The corporate military-industrial complex of 2475 had long since swallowed up what remained of civilian space exploration. Every vessel, from the smallest courier to the mightiest battlecruiser, bore the insignia of one megacorporation or another. Orion 9, a sprawling space station hovering at the edge of the Orion Arm, was no exception. The Quantum Dynamics logo, a stylized atom trapped in a corporate handshake, adorned every wall, door, and uniform. In Maintenance Bay 7, or the Pit, as the engineers called it, Lena Tiny Arkwright fumbled with a fusion coupling that was nearly half her size. At just under 5 feet tall, Lena had grown accustomed to the jokes about needing a stepladder to reach the control panels, or how she could crawl through maintenance ducts that others found impassable. What her colleagues failed to understand was that her small frame housed one of the sharpest engineering minds in the sector. "Hey, Tiny! Captain Hirsch wants that coupling fixed by ZO 800. The booming voice of Supervisor Crane echoed through the pit. "Unless you need me to lift it for you." His laughter bounced off the metal walls. "I've got it, sir," Lena responded, not bothering to look up. She gave the coupling one final twist, and the diagnostic panel lit up green. "See? All fixed." Crane grunted, clearly disappointed he couldn't find something to criticize. "Well, don't just stand there. There's a faulty circuit board in server room 12 that needs replacing." Lena wiped the grease from her hands. "On my way." Server room 12 was located in the station's central hub, far from the maintenance bays. As Lena made her way through the labyrinthine corridors, the station's loudspeakers crackled to life. "Attention all personnel! This is not a drill. Federation naval forces have been detected approaching Orion 9. All non-essential personnel proceed to evacuation points. Security teams to defensive positions." Lena froze. The Federation? Here? Orion 9 was supposed to be a neutral zone, protected by interstellar treaties. The tension between the Federation and the corporate alliance had been growing for months, but an outright attack seemed unthinkable. The station shuddered violently, nearly knocking Lena off her feet. The attack had begun. Red emergency lights bathed the corridor in an eerie glow as Lena steadied herself against the wall. "All personnel to evacuation stations immediately," the announcement continued. "This is not a drill." Lena turned to head toward the nearest evacuation point when the station rocked again, more violently this time. The lights flickered, and the blast doors to server room 12 slammed shut behind her. The security system had activated lockdown protocols. "Emergency protocol initiated," the station's AI announced in its unnervingly calm voice. "All secure areas sealed. Please proceed to designated evacuation points." "I'm trying to," Lena shouted at the disembodied voice, knowing full well it couldn't hear her frustration. She pressed her palm against the security scanner, but the door remained firmly closed. "Access denied. Security lockdown in effect." Lena glanced around, desperation mounting. The evacuation route was now cut off, and the distant sound of weapons fire suggested the Federation forces had already breached the outer defenses. She was trapped in the central hub, which would soon be swarming with Federation soldiers. Her communicator beeped. "Maintenance team, report status," came Supervisor Crane's voice, barely audible over the sounds of chaos in the background. "Arkwright here. I'm locked in the central hub, near server room 12. A burst of static. Then, "Get out of there! Tiny! The feds are after the quantum core technology. That's what this is all about. They're heading straight for Central." The quantum core, quantum dynamics' newest and most revolutionary technology. A power source so efficient it could fuel an entire station for decades without refueling. The prototype had only been installed on Orion 9 3 months ago, and apparently, the Federation wanted it badly enough to risk interstellar war. "I can't get out, sir. Security lockdown has sealed all the doors." "Find somewhere to hide then. The evac ships are almost full. We'll come back for you when we can." The communication cut off abruptly, And Lena knew what that meant. They weren't coming back. At least not before the Federation took control of the station. Another explosion rocked the station, closer this time. The lights flickered again, and Lena made a decision. If she was trapped here, she might as well try to reach the core control room. Not to save the technology. Corporate secrets meant little to her. But because if the core went unstable during the attack, the entire station would be vaporized, along with anyone still on board. Lena pulled out her multi-tool and approached a nearby ventilation shaft. This was where being small had its advantages. With a few quick twists, she removed the grate and peered into the dark tunnel. It would be a tight fit for most, but for her, it was a viable escape route. As she crawled through the cramped space, the sounds of battle grew louder. Orion 9's security forces were putting up a fight, but it wouldn't be enough. The Federation had sent a full strike team, and the station's defenders were outnumbered and outgunned. After what felt like an eternity of navigating through the ventilation system, Lena reached a junction that, according to her mental map of the station, should be directly above the corridor leading to the core control room. She carefully removed another grate and dropped down into the corridor, landing with surprising grace for someone who had just crawled through half a kilometer of dusty vents. The corridor was eerily silent, a stark contrast to the chaos elsewhere on the station. The quantum core room was just ahead, its entrance marked by heavy blast doors and warning signs about radiation hazards. Lena approached cautiously, aware that the Federation forces would be heading here too. She pressed her palm against the scanner, and to her surprise, the doors slid open. The security lockdown should have sealed this room tighter than any other. Yet here it was, granting her access. Something was very wrong. The core control room was a marvel of technology. At its center stood the quantum core itself, a spherical chamber surrounded by a complex array of coolant pipes and monitoring equipment. A soft blue glow emanated from within, pulsating gently like a heartbeat. Lena quickly moved to the main control panel. The readouts were alarming: core temperature rising, containment field fluctuating, quantum stability at 67% and dropping. The attack had damaged the cooling systems, and the core was heading toward a catastrophic overload. She began typing furiously, trying to access the emergency shutdown protocols. But the system rejected her commands. "Security clearance insufficient," flashed the screen. "Override! Emergency situation!" Lena shouted, as if the computer might respond to her panic. "Security clearance insufficient?" the system repeated indifferently. Lena slammed her fist against the console in frustration. She needed higher clearance, or... The sound of boots in the corridor outside snapped her out of her thoughts. The Federation strike team had arrived. Lena quickly ducked behind a large server bank, just as the doors slid open again. 4 soldiers entered, weapons drawn, followed by a tall, imposing figure in an officer's uniform. Major Rowe, the team leader, surveyed the room with cold calculation. "Secure the perimeter," he ordered. "Then prepare the core for extraction." "Sir," one of the soldiers spoke up, "the core readings are unstable. Extraction may not be possible without a proper shutdown sequence." Major Rowe approached the control panel, studying the flashing warnings with a frown. "How long do we have?" "At current degradation rates, approximately 15 minutes before containment failure." "Then we have 15 minutes to figure out the shutdown sequence," Rowe replied coolly. "Begin the bypass procedures." From her hiding place, Lena watched as the soldiers attempted to override the system. They were good, but they were working with unfamiliar technology, and time was rapidly running out. The core's pulsing had become erratic, and warning klaxons began to sound throughout the room. "Sir, we can't break through the security protocols," one of the technicians reported, "and the core temperature is continuing to rise." Major Rowe's face hardened. "Keep trying. We're not leaving without that core technology." The next few minutes were tense as the Federation team worked frantically to stabilize the core. Lena remained hidden, her mind racing. If they couldn't shut down the core properly, everyone on the station, including herself, would be reduced to subatomic particles when it went critical. Then a thought struck her. If she revealed herself, she'd likely be captured or worse. But she might also be the only person who could prevent the catastrophe. Her maintenance access might not be enough for a controlled shutdown, but she knew the systems better than these intruders. Before she could second-guess herself, Lena stepped out from behind the server bank. "Stop!" she shouted. "You're making it worse!" Instantly, 4 weapons were trained on her. Major Rowe turned slowly, his expression a mixture of surprise and amusement as he took in her small stature. "And who might you be?" he asked, his voice dripping with condescension. "Lena Arkwright, engineering maintenance. And if you keep doing what you're doing, we'll all be dead in about 10 minutes. Major Rowe studied her for a moment, then gestured for his men to lower their weapons. "Explain." "The core's containment field is designed with fail-safes that trigger when unauthorized access is attempted," Lena explained rapidly. "You're triggering those fail-safes, which is causing the field to destabilize faster. And I suppose you know how to stabilize it?" Rowe's tone made it clear he doubted her abilities. "I might," Lena replied. "I've worked on this station since the core was installed. I know its systems." Major Rowe considered this, his eyes flicking to the increasingly urgent warnings on the display screens. "Very well, little engineer. Show us what you can do. But be aware that if this is a trick, my men will shoot you where you stand." Lena swallowed hard, but moved toward the control panel. The soldiers parted to let her through, their expressions skeptical. She could almost hear their thoughts. "This tiny woman is going to save us?" As she began working, Lena's fingers flew across the controls with practiced ease. The core's instability had progressed further than she had initially thought. The quantum field was fluctuating wildly, and the containment system was struggling to compensate. "The primary coolant system is offline," she muttered, more to herself than to the watching soldiers. "And the backup is failing. We need to reroute power to the tertiary systems." "Do it," Major Rowe ordered. "I can't," Lena replied, not taking her eyes off the screen. "Not with my clearance level. We need a senior engineer or a station officer." "The station officers have evacuated," Rowe said coldly. "And I doubt they left the access codes behind." Lena bit her lip, thinking frantically. "Then, we need to bypass the security protocols entirely. I need access to the hardware itself." "The hardware?" "The control circuits. Under the floor paneling. I need to rewire the core control systems manually." Major Rowe looked skeptical. "That's possible?" "Theoretically. It's not exactly in the maintenance manual. But—" Lena trailed off, already moving toward the section of flooring that concealed the control circuitry. "Sir," one of the soldiers interjected, "we have less than 8 minutes before critical failure." Rowe nodded curtly. "Do it," he told Lena, "but make it quick." 2 soldiers helped Lena remove the heavy floor panel, revealing a complex network of circuitry beneath. Lena lay flat on her stomach and lowered herself into the narrow space, her small size finally proving to be an advantage. The control circuits were a maze of quantum processors and superconducting wires, all carefully shielded to prevent interference. Lena quickly identified the main control pathways and began tracing them to find a way to bypass the security lockouts. 5 minutes to critical, came the update from above. Sweat beaded on Lena's forehead as she worked. The space was cramped and hot, made worse by the failing cooling systems. She found what she was looking for, the security subprocessor that was preventing access to the core controls. "I need tools," she called out. "My multi-tool is in my left pocket." A moment later, her tool was handed down to her. Lena began carefully disconnecting the security processor, aware that one wrong move could accelerate the core destabilization. 4 minutes! With the security processor isolated, Lena began rewiring the control circuits to create a direct link to the core systems. It was delicate work, requiring a steady hand and intimate knowledge of how the systems were designed. 3 minutes. Core temperature reaching critical levels. Lena ignored the countdown, focusing entirely on the task at hand. She was close. So close. Just a few more connections. 2 minutes. Plasma containment failing. As if to emphasize the warning, a small jet of blue plasma escaped from one of the coolant pipes, searing a hole in the opposite wall. The soldiers backed away nervously, but Major Rowe remained steady, his eyes fixed on the small engineer working beneath the floor. "What's happening down there?" he demanded. "We're running out of time." "Almost. Got it," Lena muttered, making the final connection. But as she did, she noticed something strange in the circuitry design, a redundant pathway that served no apparent purpose, leading to a small black box she didn't recognize. 1 minute 30 seconds. There was no time to investigate further. Lena connected her bypass to the main control system and pulled herself out of the floor compartment. "I've bypassed the security protocols," she announced, rushing to the control panel. "Now I can initiate the emergency shutdown sequence." Her fingers flew across the controls, but instead of responding as expected, the system displayed a new warning. Dead man's switch activated. Core destabilization accelerated. "What did you do?" Rowe demanded, grabbing her shoulder roughly. "I didn't do anything," Lena protested. "It's some kind of failsafe I've never seen before. The system is designed to self-destruct if someone bypasses the security protocols." 1 minute to critical failure. Lena's mind raced. The black box she had seen, it had to be the dead man's switch, a final security measure to prevent the core technology from falling into enemy hands. But who would design such a thing? Who would sacrifice an entire station full of people to protect corporate secrets? The answer came to her in a flash. Her superiors at Quantum Dynamics. They had built a self-destruct into their own technology, not caring who might be caught in the blast when it was triggered. "I need to go back down there," she said urgently. "I can reverse the failsafe, but I need to completely rewire the control circuits." 50 seconds. Major Rowe's face was grim. "Do it." Lena dropped back into the floor compartment, her heart pounding. The black box was the key. She needed to isolate it from the control system without triggering further failsafes. 40 seconds. Working with desperate speed, Lena began disconnecting the black box from the main circuit. As she did, she realized the brilliant, yet horrifying elegance of the design. The box was monitoring the quantum field itself, using the fluctuations as a power source. If the field destabilized beyond a certain point, it would feed that energy back into the core, causing an immediate and catastrophic overload. 30 seconds. She needed to reverse the energy flow, to make the box absorb the excess quantum fluctuations rather than amplify them. But that would require rewiring the entire control system in seconds. 20 seconds. Lena took a deep breath. There was no time for careful work now. With one decisive move, she yanked the main power coupling from the black box and connected it directly to the grounding circuit. 10 seconds. Using her multi-tool, she quickly spliced the remaining connections, creating an improvised feedback loop that would channel the excess energy away from the core. 5 seconds, 4, 3. With a final twist, Lena connected the last wire and held her breath. 2, 1. The core's pulsing suddenly steadied, the blue glow becoming more consistent. The warning klaxons fell silent, and the temperature readings began to drop. "Core stabilizing," announced the system. "Containment field integrity restored." Lena let out the breath she'd been holding, her body trembling with relief and exhaustion. She had done it. She had rewired the core control systems in less than 3 minutes, averting disaster by mere seconds. She pulled herself out of the floor compartment to find Major Rowe and his team staring at her with undisguised amazement. "Impossible," one of the soldiers muttered. Major Rowe's expression had transformed from condescension to something approaching respect. "How did you do that?" he asked quietly. Lena wiped sweat from her forehead, leaving a streak of grime across her face. "I reversed the energy flow in the failsafe device. Instead of feeding energy back into the core to cause an overload, it's now absorbing the excess fluctuations, actually helping to stabilize the field." "You did that? In 3 minutes?" "I work well under pressure," Lena replied with a weak smile. Then her expression hardened. "But you should know that my employers built that failsafe deliberately. They were willing to sacrifice this entire station rather than let their technology fall into Federation hands." Major Rowe's face darkened. "We suspected as much. The corporations have been developing increasingly dangerous technologies with fewer and fewer ethical constraints." An uncomfortable silence fell over the room, broken only by the soft hum of the now stable quantum core. "What happens now?" Lena finally asked. Major Rowe considered her for a long moment. "Originally, we came to secure the quantum core technology, but after what you've shown us about its failsafe mechanisms, I'm not sure extracting it would be wise without further study." He turned to one of his officers. "Status report on the rest of the station?" "We've secured all key areas, sir. Minimal resistance remaining. Most corporate personnel evacuated before we breached the outer defenses." Rowe nodded. "And the civilian workers?" "Still being evacuated, sir. No casualties reported among non-combatants." Lena felt a small surge of relief. At least her colleagues had gotten away safely. "What about me?" she asked, her voice smaller than she intended. Major Rowe's gaze returned to her. "You, Engineer Arkwright, have proven yourself to be exceptional. The Federation could use someone with your skills and quick thinking." "You want me to defect?" Lena asked incredulously. "I'm offering you a choice," Rowe corrected. "You can remain here as our prisoner until we decide what to do with this station. Or you can come with us and put your talents to better use than serving corporate masters who were willing to let you die to protect their secrets." Before Lena could respond, the station's communication system crackled to life. "Federation forces, this is Admiral Lennox of the Corporate Alliance Fleet. We have your position surrounded. Withdraw from Orion 9 immediately or face the consequences." Major Rowe's expression tightened. "It seems our mission has been compromised." He turned to his team. "Prepare for immediate extraction. We've learned what we came for." To Lena, he said, "Your choice, engineer, stay or come with us. Decide quickly." Lena hesitated. The corporations had never valued her, had even built a death trap into the very technology she maintained. But defecting to the Federation? That was treason, plain and simple. "I'll stay," she said finally. "This station is my home, whatever its flaws, and someone needs to make sure that failsafe is permanently disabled." Major Rowe nodded, not looking surprised. "As you wish." He turned to leave, then paused. "For what it's worth, Engineer Arkwright, I've never seen anyone work with technology the way you do. The corporations don't deserve your loyalty." With that, he and his team departed, leaving Lena alone in the core control room. Through the station's windows, she could see Federation ships beginning to pull away, harried by the arrival of Corporate Alliance vessels. Lena sank into the control chair, suddenly aware of how exhausted she was. She had saved the station, possibly saved hundreds of lives, by rewiring a quantum core in 3 minutes. A task that senior engineers would have deemed impossible. Yet, she knew that when she reported what had happened, when she explained about the hidden failsafe and how she had bypassed it, she would face skepticism and disbelief. After all, she was just Tiny Arkwright from Maintenance Bay 7. What could she possibly know about quantum core technology? Hours later, after the Federation forces had fully withdrawn and corporate security teams had swept the station, Lena found herself in a debriefing room, facing a panel of stern-faced executives. "Let me understand this correctly," said Director Voss, a thin man with cold eyes. "You claim that our quantum core was designed with a self-destruct mechanism that would have destroyed the entire station if triggered?" "Not a claim, sir. A fact," Lena replied firmly. "I saw it with my own eyes and disabled it myself." "And you expect us to believe that you, a maintenance engineer with basic clearance, managed to rewire our most sophisticated technology in— How long did you say? 3 minutes?" "Yes, sir. The evidence is there in the core room. You can send your technical team to verify everything I've told you." Director Voss exchanged glances with his colleagues. "We've already inspected the core. There is evidence of tampering, certainly. But our technicians inform me that what you describe would be virtually impossible to accomplish in the time frame you suggest." "With all due respect, sir, your technicians weren't there. I was, and I did it." Another executive, a woman with silver hair pulled into a tight bun, leaned forward. "Miss Arkwright, do you understand the implications of what you're suggesting? You're accusing quantum dynamics of deliberately endangering its own personnel and property." "I'm not suggesting anything. I'm telling you what I found," Lena said, her patience wearing thin. "And given that I saved this station and everyone's still on it, I think I deserve some answers about why that failsafe was there in the first place." Director Voss's expression hardened. "You forget yourself, engineer. You are not in a position to demand answers from this board." Lena bit back a sharp retort. They weren't going to listen to her. They never had. To them, she was just another replaceable worker, too small and insignificant to be taken seriously. "Very well," she said, rising from her seat. "If there's nothing else, I should return to my duties. Maintenance Bay 7 will need all hands to help with repairs after the attack." "Actually," said the silver-haired woman, "there is one more thing. In light of your claimed actions during the crisis, we're considering a reassignment for you." Lena's heart sank. Reassignment usually meant being shipped off to some distant, less desirable post. It was how the corporation dealt with troublemakers. "To where?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "To the Engineering Development Division," Director Voss replied, surprising her. "If you are indeed as skilled as you claim, your talents are wasted in maintenance. You'll report to Dr. Eliza Werner in Laboratory 5 tomorrow morning." Lena stared at him, momentarily speechless. The Engineering Development Division was where the corporation's top engineers worked on cutting-edge technology. It was a prestigious assignment that many spent their entire careers trying to achieve. "Thank you, sir," she managed finally. I won't disappoint you." "See that you don't," Voss replied coldly. "You're dismissed." As Lena left the debriefing room, her mind was spinning. Promotion or punishment? It was hard to tell. The development division would give her access to more advanced technology and the opportunity to work on meaningful projects, but it would also place her under much closer scrutiny. Perhaps that was the point. Keep your friends close and your potential whistleblowers closer. The news of her actions during the Federation attack spread quickly throughout the station, growing more elaborate with each retelling. By the time Lena entered the station's common area that evening, the story had transformed into an epic tale of how tiny Arkwright had single-handedly fought off a squad of Federation commandos while rewiring the quantum core blindfolded. "There she is!" someone shouted as she entered. "The hero of Orion 9!" Lena found herself surrounded by colleagues, many of whom had barely acknowledged her existence before. They bombarded her with questions and congratulations, their attitudes completely transformed by her sudden fame. "Is it true you rewired the core in just 3 minutes? Did you really threaten to shoot Major Rowe if he didn't back off? They're saying you're being promoted to chief engineer." Lena raised her hands, overwhelmed by the attention. "Please, it wasn't like that. I just did what needed to be done." "Always so modest," laughed Technician Reeves. a man who had previously called her the station's smallest problem. "Come on, Tiny, let me buy you a drink. You've earned it." As she was ushered toward the bar, Lena caught sight of Supervisor Crane watching from a corner, his expression unreadable. He had returned with the other evacuees once the all-clear was given, but he hadn't spoken to her since the attack. Now, he simply raised his glass in a silent toast before turning away. The next morning, Lena reported to Laboratory 5 as instructed. The lab was in a section of the station she had rarely visited, nestled among the more classified research facilities. When she entered, she found a spacious, well-equipped workspace dominated by holographic displays and prototype equipment. A tall woman with short gray hair and piercing blue eyes looked up from a workstation. "Ah, you must be Arkwright," she said, her voice crisp but not unfriendly. "I'm Dr. Eliza Werner." "Pleased to meet you, Dr. Werner," Lena replied, suddenly feeling very small and out of place among the advanced technology. "I've read the reports about your actions during the attack," Werner continued, studying Lena with open curiosity. "Most of it sounds like typical station gossip, but the core logs don't lie. You did manage to stabilize the quantum field in record time." "I just did what I had to do," Lena said, uncomfortable with the scrutiny. "And you claim you found a deliberate failsafe mechanism? A dead man's switch, as you called it?" Lena hesitated, unsure how much she should say. Werner seemed different from the executives, more scientist than corporate loyalist, but caution was still warranted. "Yes," she said finally. "It was designed to trigger a core overload if anyone bypassed the security protocols. It nearly killed everyone on the station." Werner's expression darkened. "I suspected as much. Come with me." She led Lena to a secure terminal in the back of the laboratory and entered a complex series of access codes. The screen lit up with technical schematics that Lena immediately recognized as the quantum core design. "Look familiar?" Werner asked. "Yes, but I've never seen the complete schematics before." "Few have. This technology is highly classified." Werner zoomed in on a section of the design, highlighting a small component that matched the black box Lena had discovered. "This is the device you found. Officially, it's designated as an emergency containment regulator." "But it does the opposite of containment," Lena protested. "It's designed to force a core breach." "Precisely," Werner's voice was grim. "And it was not in my original design." "Your design?" Lena looked at the doctor with new understanding. "You created the quantum core technology?" Werner nodded. "The core itself, yes. But when the corporation took over the project, certain modifications were made without my knowledge or consent. This failsafe was one of them." "Why would they do that? Risk an entire station and everyone on it?" "To prevent the technology from falling into rival hands," Werner explained, her disgust evident. "The corporate alliance values its technological advantages more than the lives of its employees." Lena thought about Major Rowe's words. "The corporations don't deserve your loyalty." Perhaps he had been right. "So what happens now?" she asked. "Now," said Werner, with a hint of a smile, "we work together. Your field rewiring of the core was ingenious, but temporary. We need to develop a permanent solution to neutralize these failsafes, not just here on Orion 9, but on every installation where this technology has been deployed." "Won't the corporation try to stop us?" "Officially, we're optimizing the core's stability parameters. What they don't know won't concern them." Werner's eyes gleamed with a rebellious light that Lena found surprisingly reassuring. "Besides, after your heroics, you have some political capital to spend. The entire station is calling you the tiny engineer who saved Orion 9. Even the directors will think twice before crossing you right now." For the first time since the attack, Lena felt a genuine smile spread across her face. "Where do we start?" The weeks that followed were the most intellectually stimulating of Lena's career. Working alongside Dr. Werner, she delved into the quantum core technology at a level she had never been permitted to access before. They developed a series of subtle modifications that would neutralize the fail-safe mechanisms without alerting the corporate monitors, disguising their work as routine maintenance and efficiency improvements. Word of Lena's feat continued to spread beyond Orion 9. Other stations and ships in the corporate alliance began to request her consultation on their own systems. And each time, she and Werner secretly implemented their fail-safe countermeasures. The story of the tiny engineer who had rewired a quantum core in 3 minutes became something of a legend among the technical communities across the sector. Lena found the attention embarrassing, but used her newfound influence to advocate for better safety protocols and greater transparency in technological development. 3 months after the Federation attack, Lena was working late in Laboratory 5 when the door slid open to admit Director Voss. She hadn't seen him since the debriefing, and his unexpected appearance made her instantly wary. "Engineer Arkwright," he said, his tone as cold as ever. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything important." "Not at all, Director," Lena replied cautiously. "What can I do for you?" Voss surveyed the laboratory, his gaze lingering on the holographic models of quantum field stabilizers that Lena had been working on. "I've been reviewing your work since your promotion. Very impressive." "Thank you, sir. In fact, the board has taken notice of your contributions. We're considering implementing your field stabilization methods across our entire fleet." Lena felt a mixture of pride and apprehension. "That's good to hear." "There's just one thing that concerns me," Voss continued, fixing her with his penetrating stare. "Some of Dr. Werner's reports suggest that you've been making modifications to the core's security systems, as well as its stability parameters." Lena's heart raced, but she kept her expression neutral. "Only to improve overall system integrity, sir. After the attack, we identified several vulnerabilities that needed addressing." "Vulnerabilities," Voss repeated, the word hanging in the air between them. "Including, perhaps, certain fail-safe mechanisms." So he knew, or at least, he suspected. Lena chose her next words carefully. "Director, with all due respect, any system that prioritizes corporate secrets over human lives is not just a vulnerability, it's a moral failure. And yes, we've been working to ensure that what nearly happened on Orion 9 can never happen again." She expected anger, threats, perhaps even immediate dismissal. Instead, Voss's expression remained carefully blank. "I see," he said finally. "And you believe your judgment supersedes that of the corporate leadership? In matters of engineering ethics?" "Yes, I do." Lena straightened her spine, standing as tall as her small frame would allow. "The quantum core is a revolutionary technology that could transform energy production across the galaxy. But if it's implemented with hidden death traps, it's not progress, it's corporate terrorism." Voss was silent for a long moment, studying her with an unreadable expression. Then, to Lena's utter surprise, a thin smile appeared on his face. "Well said, Engineer Arkwright. Very well said indeed." "Sir?" "Not everyone in corporate leadership approved of the fail-safe implementations," Voss explained. "Some of us have been working to change the policy from within, but we needed evidence of both the technical and ethical problems they present. You and Dr. Werner have provided that evidence quite thoroughly." Lena stared at him, struggling to reconcile this new information with the cold, dismissive executive she had faced in the debriefing room. "The board is divided," Voss continued, "but those of us arguing against the fail-safes now have the upper hand, thanks in large part to your actions. Your safety modifications will be officially approved and implemented fleet-wide." "I don't know what to say, sir." "You don't need to say anything. Just keep doing what you're doing." Voss turned to leave, then paused at the door. "Oh, and Engineer Arkwright, the next time you save a station, Try to give us more than 3 minutes warning. After Voss departed, Lena sat in stunned silence, trying to process what had just happened. Had she misjudged the director? Or was this some elaborate corporate game she didn't fully understand? Her communicator beeped with a message from Dr. Werner. Good news. Board voted 7-3 to remove all core failsafes. We won. So it was true. They had actually changed corporate policy, something virtually unheard of in the rigid hierarchy of quantum dynamics. In the months that followed, Lena's reputation continued to grow. She was offered numerous promotions and transfers to more prestigious assignments. But to everyone's surprise, she declined them all, choosing instead to remain on Orion 9 working alongside Dr. Werner. You could be chief engineer on any ship in the fleet, Werner remarked one day. Why stay here? Lena looked up from the prototype miniature quantum generator she was testing. Because here, I can actually make a difference. Out there, I'd just be another cog in the corporate machine again. Werner nodded in understanding. Well, I for one am glad you stayed. It's not often I find someone who can keep up with me intellectually, especially someone who can rewire a quantum core in 3 minutes flat. Lena groaned. Will I ever live that down? Not a chance, Werner laughed. Legends never die, Tiny. A year after the Federation attack, Lena stood at the viewport in Laboratory 5, gazing out at the stars. Orion 9 had been fully repaired, its systems upgraded, its security enhanced, but without the deadly failsafes that had once lurked within its technology. The tension between the Federation and the corporate alliance had eased somewhat, thanks in part to new regulations governing the development and deployment of potentially dangerous technologies. Lena's story, and the revelation of the corporate failsafes, had sparked a broader conversation about ethics in engineering that was slowly changing corporate culture. Lena still received occasional messages from Major Rowe, who had been promoted to colonel after the Orion 9 mission. He never directly mentioned the quantum core technology, but he always ended his communications with the same line. The Federation could still use someone with your skills. Engineer Arkwright. She never replied to those messages, but she kept them. They served as a reminder that sometimes loyalty had to be earned, not demanded. A soft chime indicated someone at the laboratory door. Lena turned to see a young maintenance engineer, barely out of training, by the look of her, hovering uncertainly in the doorway. Engineer Arkwright, the newcomer asked, her voice tinged with awe. I'm Technician Jorel. They sent me from Maintenance Bay 7 to help with the new installations. Lena smiled, remembering her own early days on the station. Come in, Technician, and call me Lena, or Tiny if you prefer. Everyone else does. I couldn't, Jorel protested. You're a legend, the engineer who rewired a quantum core in 3 minutes and saved the entire station. Legends are often exaggerated, Lena replied, though she couldn't help but feel a small glow of pride. But you know what isn't. The importance of every single person on this station, no matter their rank or size. She guided the young technician to her workstation. Now, let me show you what we're working on. It's a miniaturized quantum generator that could revolutionize personal power systems. As Lena explained the technology, she couldn't help but reflect on how much had changed in a year. From an overlooked maintenance engineer to a respected technical leader, from a corporate drone to someone who had helped change corporate policy. All because she had been in the wrong place at the right time, with the skills and courage to do what everyone had thought impossible. All because no one had believed the tiny engineer could stop a starship, until she rewired the core in 3 minutes. And as she looked at the stars beyond the viewport, Lena, Tiny Arkwright, knew that the greatest power didn't come from quantum cores or corporate hierarchies, but from the courage to stand up for what was right, even when everyone thought you were too small to make a difference.